Here we go. Okay, Danielle, I think we're good.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to KY Go Digital Live. My name is Danielle Washburn, Digital Innovation Leader in JCPS, and I will be leading the show along with our very esteemed guest. So I'm super excited to be joined by Nicole Ambrose, K-12 Computer Lab Teacher at Brown School in JCPS. We have Paula Kissick from Fayette County School, the Digital Learning Coach. We also have Kathy Davis. She is the KET Education Consultant. Larry Moore, another KET Education Consultant. James Allen, KDE Statewide School Library Lead and Digital Learning Coordinator. We also have Dr. Marty Park. He is our KDE Chief Digital Officer. Adam Watson, Shelby County Digital Learning Coordinator. In addition, we do have Amy Buss, who will also be closing us out today and monitoring the chat room. And welcome, guests. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you all for
Great.
Thank you. Thank you all for being on this show. I know this is going to be a stellar show. So without further ado, I am going to share my screen and I am going to turn it over to Nicole. And she is, again, a K-12 Computer Lab teacher from Brown School. And she will be kicking off our show on digital citizenship.
Appreciate it, Danielle. I'm excited to be here. So, that is kind of to give everyone a taste of what I come when it comes to digital citizenship with our students. As Danielle said, we are a K-12 school. So last year I had a lot of elementary students, and this year I have a lot of our middle and high school students. So making sure that we're touching on digital citizenship across various age groups. The three things that I think it really boils down to is helping our kids be safe, be secure, and also be respectful when it comes to their work on the internet. And so as we move on to the next slide, so the first part being safe. We always tell our kids don't talk to strangers, but when you're on the internet, it's hard to really tell who is who. So I think that with the internet, it allows everyone to be anyone. So we have to keep our kids understanding that online interactions, we have to be safe about who we're really communicating with. And so the two pictures that are here, I actually do a cybersecurity public service announcement unit with our students. So this is an example of a trifold that some of our kids came up with about oversharing and some of the pros and cons and how to be safe when it comes to what you share. And then also a pamphlet about what not to post. And you can see they have different social media icons there. So being safe is really the first pillar that we want our kids to understand when it comes to their online interactions. On the next slide, we talk about being secure. So when it comes to security, we give so much information away on the internet, whether we realize it or not. So the first thing that we try to help our kids recognize is making sure that websites have HTTPS or hypertext transfer protocol secure. So making sure that the information that they are sharing is being transmitted to a secure website. So the two things we teach our kids to look for is that little lock symbol, and then also make sure that you have an S at the end of HTTPS. So making sure that our kids are also protecting themselves from identity theft. According to a Consumer Affairs report, children and seniors are most at risk of having their identity taken. And of course, our kids won't realize it until they're using their social security number to apply for colleges or even getting that first credit card. They might not understand or realize that because you gave away so much information, somebody has been using your identity for all these years. So security is a big point that we try to get across to our kids, especially because with social media, you're giving away information about maybe places you visited, possibly where you live or the neighborhood where you live. So security is definitely a very important aspect that we try to make sure that our kids are aware of. On the next slide, probably the most important, especially for our teens, because they are doing so much work online, especially at this time where we're all limited to completing assignments online. Being respectful, and this has two pieces to it. Being respectful of other people's work, and also being respectful of how we treat one another. And so cyberbullying is a huge issue that our kids are experiencing nowadays through social media. It's easy to say whatever to whoever because you don't have to be face to face with them. But also being respectful of what you're using. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's fair game, right? So we try to teach our kids to check usage rights before using a picture from the internet. And we go into a whole unit about copyright laws and how that's actually legislation. If you use something that's copywritten without getting prior consent, you subject yourself to possible legal action. So one tip that we always tell our kids is that when you are searching for an image on Google, if you click on images, you'll actually see a tools button. When you click on that, it opens up some options for you. Usage rights actually filters out the things that you can use without having to get prior permission. So you can select for it to be labeled for reuse with modifications. So you're allowed to make changes to the work, labeled for reuse, also labeled for non-commercial reuse. We'll talk about also if you're using someone else's work, can you or can you not make money from it? So teaching kids that simple tools and usage rights in Google Images is a great way to get them to be more aware of when they're using someone else's work and making sure they're doing so properly. Also, we talk about respecting other people by asking them before using their work. So we talk about plagiarism as well. If you're not getting permission beforehand and you're using it, then it's not the right thing to do. And then again, touching back on cyberbullying, in 2017, approximately 15% of high school students reported that they were cyberbullied. So the internet and social media is a space where adults can't always monitor what they're doing. So teaching our kids to be aware that being respectful of other people, even when they're not being monitored by adults, is really important, especially on the internet, because not only does their digital footprint include what they say, it also includes what other people say about them. So we just try to make sure that our kids are aware that respect is super important, especially when we're talking about the internet. And so on the next slide, so some 4 keys to summarize everything that I just kind of breezed through. Always ask for permission. I think getting kids to understand that just because it's online doesn't mean they can use it is really important. So getting kids to start saying, hey, this is an image that I know I didn't take or create. Let me find out who did create it. Let me make sure I'm able to use it properly and give them the possible credit if I can use it. Number 2, think before you send. Whatever goes out there, it's there forever. You can delete it as if you want, but if someone else screenshots, you can't take it back. So if you've had a bad day, whatever it may be, really think before you press that send button. Is that something you want out there forever? Number 3, of course, protect your private information. We give away so much information now on the internet, even credit card information when you're ordering things, your address when you're ordering things. Really think about, do I want that company or that website having that kind of information? Will they protect it the way I know I need to protect it? And then lastly, treat it online as you would treat it in person. Respect, again, is a huge pillar that we want to make sure our kids understand. If you wouldn't say something mean to someone in person, don't do it online, especially because, again, you really can't take it back once it's out there. And so lastly, I just wanted to share some resources that I use when I'm teaching on the next slide. So again, I teach a wide range of kids. We've got kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade. Google Applied Digital Skills. It's all Google-based. I know most, if not all of us, are using Google Classroom right now. So they have a lot of great cybersecurity and digital citizenship modules and lessons that kids can use. It includes videos. If you have kids who are maybe auditory and visual learners, it walks through all the skills. And in addition to teaching a lot of these digital citizenship skills, it's also teaching them how to use different Google applications. So you can filter it out to use Docs, Sheets, Google Sites. So kids are actually getting to use these new Google apps while also learning about digital citizenship. The Common Sense curriculum, it's for kids all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. They actually just came out with a new set of modules and curriculum last year. So it's really nice because it gears specifically for a certain age group. We know our elementary kids are going through something totally different from our high school kids. So being able to talk about how to behave online, but geared for elementary versus high school, it's a really great resource that I found has been helpful. They also have videos and Google Slides presentations already created for you. So it's really easy to use. And I actually really like it because it's a great discussion and talking point with my students. The PBS Cybersecurity Lab, it's actually a lab game where kids are pretending that they are running a social media network and they have to make some cybersecurity decisions. So it's interactive. It also includes some coding on there. So it gives kids a great look at computer science, but also how to be a good digital citizen and being safe on the internet. And then lastly, for our little ones, another game, Interland, is a Google game. It teaches kids about being a good digital citizen, being kind on the internet, and also being safe with your information. So I know that was a lot. I'm sure these slides will be available after. Again, these are great resources that I've found helpful, and hopefully you do too.
Yes, so thank you, Nicole. I do want to point out, let me stop sharing my screen real quick. I do want to point out that it is so important to hear from a teacher that is currently teaching digital citizenship to their students, and you are teaching K through 12. So you have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of resources that you are using with your students. So thank you for providing those resources.
I'm glad I could.
All right. Up next, let's go back to the presentation.
Danielle, while you're doing that, if I could just ask a quick question of Nicole, because I think this is part of the, kind of exchange back and forth so that we can all learn from each other. But Nicole, how often do you find yourself in real conversations with your students based on, kind of going through some of the learning exercise activity with real life scenario things?
Pretty often. I think that's one of the most powerful things about this. I mean, I like to think I'm still relatively young, so the kids teach me also the different websites that they're navigating through. I want to make sure that as they choose, what different social media sites to use, that they're making smart decisions with what they're sharing, especially because they think none of this will haunt them going forward. But we talk about, especially with my 8th grade group, as you move on to high school and start thinking about college, decisions you make now in 8th grade to affect the colleges that you can get into because of something silly that we posted years ago. So I think it becomes really powerful when they see, hey, you know what, I need to go through and look at what I'm posting because I don't want a potential employer or college admissions counselor to really see that.
That is absolutely awesome that you're able to engage with your students in those day-to-day conversations, and I'm sure you're also helping other teachers in your school engage with students as well in the same way.
Yeah, again, we're all stuck to digital right now at the moment, so getting them to find out the different resources that are available so that they can talk about this, whether it's an ELA class or math class. There's still different digital resources you can use, but making sure your kids are being safe and smart when you do use them.
Thank you for sharing that. Up next, we do have Kathy Davis and Larry Moore.
Well, hello, everybody. This is Larry, and with me, as you heard, is my colleague, Kathy Davis. I'm going to start the presentation, and then toward the end of our presentation, Kathy's going to take over. We are 2 of the 6 consultants education consultants for KET that cover the state, and We have a lot of different resources and services that we provide. Not only do we have PBS Learning Media, which is an awesome resource and what I'll be showing you most of today, but we also actually have workshops and things like that, and that's what Kathy's going to be sharing with you. So first of all, I'm just going to take you to our education homepage, and let's make sure everybody can see that. Hold on just a moment. Okay, can everybody see my page? Okay, cool. So this page here is how you can get to all of KET's education resources. And something that I do want to point out is as I scroll down the page here, you'll see Learn at Home with KET Education. That is an area that we created specifically for NTI and for this time when we're all doing everything virtually. And so there are a lot of resources on there. And one of them that's linked from there is PBS Learning Media. But I'm going to actually go up here toward the top of the page and link right under here where it says K-12. You'll notice it says Explore PBS Learning Media there. So I'm going to click on that link, and that takes us to our homepage for PBS Learning Media. Now, just because of our limited time today, I'm not going to actually give you a tour of this site and really how to use the whole site, but just realize and remember that Kathy and I and all the other consultants for KET are very happy to either do one-on-one trainings or working with a group virtually, however you all want to do it. We can give you a complete tour of KET, how to curate all the resources, how to use some of the different tools and things like that. But I'm going to kind of jump right into the material today that's related to digital citizenship. In KET, we mainly work in the areas of digital fluency and especially in a news literacy curriculum or training that we have designed. But also, of course, historically, KET has done a lot with the communications aspect of digital citizenship, and that is helping to teach kids how to create their own media and also how to be student journalists, how to take control of their media in that way by creating original media. And so I'm going to show you a couple of different things that help with that as well. First of all, what I'm going to do is scroll down the page here, and you'll notice that toward the bottom we have these award-winning series and collections. And I'm just going to mention two of these. One of these is, as I mentioned, we do a lot with news literacy and how students are supposed to understand about the news and about the place of news gatherers in our society and all that First Amendment aspect of how all of us are supposed to be able to have a voice. So News Quiz is a series that we do where we create a student-friendly news show for students, and it is nonpartisan, and it is a great way for kids to go in and see in the quiz format how news can be created. And we've had to be creative since we've gone virtual because production has changed a lot. But it's just a wonderful resource for students as far as being able to see how to create a news production. But also, anytime you get lost in KET or want to go back to the homepage, all you have to do is click up here on the little PBS Learning Media icon on the far left, and it takes you back to your homepage. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this deals with how to create media, and that is our Media Arts Toolkit. And this is a great tool or series of tools for teachers to use, where we have shown how teachers are using various types of media in the classroom and helping students to create their own media. We also have some tip videos, one on video production, one on green screen, and one on audio recording tips that can be used with both teachers and students to help them learn how to use these tools to create their own media. I'm going back to our homepage. And one of the tools that you can learn about when Kathy and I and the other consultants teach you about how to navigate PBS Learning Media is that you can actually favorite items and then create folders. And so the rest of my time, I'm going to be going into a folder here. And this is a folder that I've created that is specifically digital citizenship related resources. So here, you're hopefully seeing all of my folders here. And I am going to go to this one that says media literacy and digital citizenship. If anybody would like for me to share this folder with them, I can do that. Hackers. So those are all related to that Nova Labs collection. And this is the way a lot of resources in PBS Learning Media are shown. They're in collections, so it makes it very easy to navigate. You'll notice that I can share this to Google Classroom. I can favorite it. So there are different ways that I can share this. So I'm going to go back. Whoops, sorry. Let me find, there we go. Go back to my folder here. And another thing I was going to show you is a series called Above the Noise. Above the Noise is created by PBS Studios out of WQED. And this is a wonderful series for grades 6 through 12, where our narrator and presenter in this, Miles Bess, does a wonderful job of addressing all kinds of societal issues that are going on right now. But he does a lot involving digital citizenship and social media. So this one, Who's Snooping on You Online, gives a lot of wonderful resources. There are many others in this collection that also deal with that. So if we go back to our folders, you'll see that I've linked some of these specifically above the noise ones that, excuse me, while I go back into my folder here. Don't know. So you'll see things like YouTube algorithms, how to avoid the rabbit hole. That's above the noise. You see the deep fakes. How can you spot a phony video? Is the internet making you meaner? Fact or fiction? How to spot COVID-19 misinformation? So all of these are videos from that Above the Noise collection. Another thing to notice is that, getting back to this idea of teaching students how to become student journalists, is PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs is a wonderful resource, and they have created a curriculum. And also, hold on here. So here's where you get to the curriculum, and you'll notice that they have tied it to the coronavirus and stories that students are telling at home as they're going through this whole thing here. But you'll also notice as I go into this, which is a document actually, that there are videos linked in this, and these videos show students how to do all kinds of things related to creating a news package, doing interviews, lighting, angles, everything you can think of are in this one resource. And as I said, the videos that are linked in here are absolutely awesome. And they really do a great job of teaching about that. So, yeah, let me get back to my folders. I'm sorry, I keep kind of going out of that. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong there. But just if you go down through here, there's just tons of resources. I'm not going to have time to take you into a lot of this. But we also have things on, one of the ways to teach digital citizenship, and especially news literacy, is to teach about things such as propaganda. And we have a lot of videos in here: the power of propaganda, yellow journalism and fake news, Reconstruction with the Birth of a Nation. I'll just click on that one really quickly. These are all videos that talk about how we have to be careful about the news that we're consuming or the media that we're consuming, and that media, many times, it's used to push one particular person or one particular group's agenda, and we have to be careful about that. So anyway, that's a very quick look at some of the PBS Learning Media resources, and I'd love to take longer. I could spend all day doing it, but I'm going to turn it over to Kathy now, because I'd like for her to be able to talk about the different types of workshops and other services that we offer.
Yes, and thank you, Larry, for going through that. And I know that was a free presentation on that website. Those were awesome resources. But someone also in the chat said that they love the Above the Noise collection. And they just tagged some folks, and they hope to use it with those folks as well. So thank you for sharing those resources.
And Kathy, before you begin, I love this, and I think Marty alludes to this a lot, is, KET has been a wonderful partner across the state in providing resources so, we can have a focus on being digitally savvy. So it's not just about the safe component, but building the skills that students need in order to just be educated on how to interact with people online and succeed and use these tools to, show their learning and their thinking and their knowledge and be creators. I think KC has wonderful resources for that.
So Amy, your unmute finger is faster than mine. I really just quickly wanted to say we're amongst greatness with the KET team, and I know both Larry and Kathy won't celebrate themselves as much, but the KET team, in terms of digital fluency for Kentucky students and adults and community, is just top in the nation, and we're just extremely blessed as a state to have the team to help push us forward with digital fluency and other topics as well.
Okay, Daniel, advance on to the next slide. I want to thank Amy and Marty both. I'm blushing right now, if you guys can see me on the camera, but thank you guys both for your kind comments. We do try, right, Larry? But anyway, this slide is just about, Larry's already mentioned a lot of these things, just a brief summary of the workshops and services that KET will provide. Of course, as Larry said, we will do extensive workshops on PBS Learning Media. We both, all of KET really believes in PBS Learning Media, and there's lots of good stuff in there. And I will say about PBS Learning Media workshops, we will customize those for whatever that you particularly like. We'll get requests just for, middle school science teachers, and we'll just go over all the middle school science resources for that group of teachers because that's what they're interested in. So we will customize PBS Learning Media workshops to fit your needs. Of course, we could do one just on the digital citizenship and news media literacy and stuff. We also do video production. We usually do those with students, and we can also kind of customize those to fit your needs. I have done them with teachers if I have a group of teachers interested in learning just a little bit more of the basics of video production. We are also doing lots of media arts workshops where we go in and work with teachers or students to teach them how to do things such as green screen or animation. One of my favorite things to do is not actually to teach the concepts behind or how actually how you do green screen, but how you can incorporate that into your curriculum, into any curriculum, how green screen works great in a science classroom or how animation works great in a math classroom. And last of our workshops, and this is not really last, but it's last on this list, is media literacy. That's a topic that Larry and I have become very interested in. And we will also kind of customize those to meet your needs. We really like to emphasize and talk about media literacy and how to teach your students how to be literate when they're going around on social media and the different things, which really ties back into the digital citizenship a lot. And then also, I don't have this category, but we love to just work with a teacher. If a teacher or a administrator contacts us and says, hey, whatever idea they come up with, we'll do our best to customize a workshop and get in there and help you guys with our resources. Other services, of course, one of the most popular things we have right now at KET is the Media Lab and KET Tours. That's where you bring your students to KET, and Cynthia Warner, who is top notch at what she does, will work with your students and teach them. I know she's working right now on adding new workshops. She's got lots of workshops. I have that linked in these slides so you can go in and see the things that she's offering and stuff. I did talk to her just yesterday, and she is scheduling for next year. And if it turns out that she has to do some of that virtually, she's going to work on that, and hopefully it won't come to that. But if it does, I think that will be available a lot next year. We love to do one-on-one consultations. Amy Buss, I've probably done a one-on-one consultation with you a number of times. When you were in the library, we work a lot with library media specialists to do this and get them familiar with what we have, because we count on library media specialists being our main contacts in the building to get the word out to all the teachers. So hopefully, and we can't say enough about our library media specialists across the state. They are such a great group to work with, and they've been invaluable to KET. And then also something we've started since the COVID-19 crisis has come up, we're doing Learn at Home webinars. And the reason I mention these, and I've got these linked as well, you can go on our website and find those. I think there's one this afternoon on journaling, how kids can journal and show what's happened through this time. But the main reason I mention those, thank you. The main reason I mention those is because next Thursday, a week from today at 4, Larry and I are going to do one of these webinars on fact or fiction, where that we are going to kind of do one of our news media literacy workshops to help people discern between what is actual fact and what is actually fiction as they maneuver around on the web. So if you can, thank you, Danielle, for switching over to that. And if you'll advance to the next slide. This is our contact information. As Larry said earlier, there are 6 of us across the state. If you, for example, are in the blue area, that means that you are in my region and you would contact me. Email is a great way to get in touch with me, do the Twitter thing, however's best for you to get in touch with us. But just and if you're in purple, you're in Larry's region, and just see whose region you are and reach out to that consultant and see if they can help you in any way. And again, thank you guys for inviting KET today. We love to be a part of things like this. And thank you, Marty and Amy, for the kind words earlier.
I want to echo that. Thank you, Kathy.
Well, I just want to reiterate our thanks to you all. And if there are any districts, any educators, any librarians watching, the resources that KET provides us, and, when I was still in the library, Kathy, you were an amazing resource and asset to me. Please take advantage of the resources and the partnership that KET provides. Not only are the resources great, but these people are amazing people. So I consider them friends, and I cannot thank them enough for their support throughout my career in education. So I beg you, please make use of KET resources.
Thank you, Amy. And if I can say real quickly, I didn't mention it on the slides, but we even do things like Amy invited me to come and be a judge at her robotics camp they had back at Greg a few months ago. One of the most fun things I've done since I've been working at KET. So any way we can help you guys, we love to come and help you guys in any way we can.
Yes, and that is also that you mentioned that. I know that probably Jefferson County will reach out to learn more to judge robotics competition, and also, of course, use them as a resource as well.
Oh, go ahead. Love it.
That was a lot of fun.
All right, thank you. So up next is James Allen, and I know before we started the call, we were kind of talking about how much of an international person he is, and we just want to thank him for being our international person from Kentucky. So let me turn it over to James Allen.
Yeah, not international. We were kidding around mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a ton on here, but I'm going to echo. I think Nicole already mentioned the applied digital skills from Google. It is a pretty extensive list of lessons in all kinds of categories, but they have a digital citizenship category. So even if you don't use these, the platform and the courses with your students, it's a great place for you to go and get ideas for things you might want to share with your teachers, share with your students. It is free. It's designed for, I think, 3rd to 4th grade, all the way up to adult learners. And it's a little different than when teachers go through like Google level 1 stuff. It's a little more basic. So when you have teachers or students, like we think that kids these days know how to do everything because they've grown up with computers, but it kind of covers some of those more basic things that we forget about, just like even how to, modify your text and center things and just basic stuff that we kind of have all, we take for granted as adults that we've been doing it so long. But yeah, I would just recommend you go in there and take a look at those lessons. And on the next slide, some of you already mentioned some resources. I know Kathy mentioned a webinar. These are just a few links that might help you out with trying to help your students recognize. We kind of have like this, it's a double-edged sword. Like information is so easy to get these days, but there's nothing that stops anyone from posting information. So we don't really know if it's stuff that we can trust. We have to constantly question everything that we see online. And these resources kind of help remind students and your teachers what they should be thinking about when they go to sources. And I kind of put this on here for a reason, especially during this time where we're working from home and kids are learning from home. Modeling, like Marty was mentioning earlier, is a really big thing. So as much as possible, I'm not like the copyright police, but as much as possible, if you can cite your sources where your information comes from, I think that is a big deal, especially for your students when they see the things that you're sharing with them. If you're grabbing pictures from Google Images or putting random quotes on your stuff and not citing where that information comes from, you're kind of giving them the go ahead to do that themselves. And they need to know that things that they create are valuable and that they, like, that is part of digital citizenship, knowing that we have to respect what other people have created, not just, it's so easy these days to just, copy and paste and take whatever you want. But part of digital citizenship is recognizing the value of what other people have created. And I think,
James, I really like how you said that we as teachers and educators, we really have to set the bar. We have to be the role models. And anytime that we are grabbing pictures from different sites, that we also need to sort where we grab those pictures from. So that is very important.
Yeah, it's just a lot of digital citizenship, I think, focuses around like social media, but it's so easy on social media to share things. Like, that's what it's for. It's for sharing. But when we do it in a way where it looks like we're sharing something that we made and we didn't, it kind of takes away from conversations and takes away from how valid that information is.
Hey, James, and I'm just going to put my librarian hat back on, and maybe Nicole can allude to this as well, just being in a special area or related area where you may not necessarily be the main content teacher, but I felt like as a librarian, we have the responsibility of kind of leading that for our classroom content teachers as well, and opening up opportunities to collaborate with those content teachers and model these digital citizenship topics and digital agility topics even when we're in a co-teaching and collaboration environment with those regular classroom teachers.
Yeah, for sure. Some of my favorite times are when I could go in the classroom and work with the students, and the teacher would be in there hearing what I was saying. And I know it wasn't like we had some big major conversation about it, but I think just kind of repeating these ideas over and over again kind of helps teachers get in that frame of mind so they know how to model these things for their kids.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
James, as you know, when we think about library leadership and our, you know, which we always say it's most of the time it's the largest and best classroom in the school, right? And your ability to connect and certainly, you know, your position as our statewide library lead. And one of the awesome tasks that you have right now is developing, for the first time ever, library media standards for Kentucky students. You know,
which definitely overlap with digital citizenship.
And that's exactly where I was headed with that, is if you could just, you know, just briefly share how that connection is made, especially for such a time as this, where, you know, we are all digitally connected almost 24/7.
Well, you're correct. We've not ever had standards in Kentucky. We've always kind of leaned on the national standards from the American Association of School Librarians, which our Kentucky academic standards will be based on. And almost they just kind of revamped those in the last 2 years or so. And almost every area of those standards kind of touches on this aspect of sharing and collaborating, and, you know, not just, really has nothing to do with how to find a book in the library. It's really more about information and how you find it, how you evaluate it, how you share it, how you create it. So I think when we get these released, I mean, right now you can go check out the national standards and it'll be a good overview for anybody really in any subject area. But I think once we have these, it'll really overlap well with the technology standards and other content areas.
So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on here today. Thank you all.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing that knowledge that you have. It's definitely important to have the library perspective as well. All right. Up next, we do have Adam Watson from Shelby County Public Schools. And thank you for sharing with us today.
Well, thank you. I am feeling like I'm getting a graduate level course here in materials about digital citizenship. So I'm appreciating all the people that talked before me and to come. I want to try to be brief, but I just want to share a little bit of the story of Shelby County from the past, quickly up to some things going on with us today that center on our topic. So the first thing is to talk about our profile of a graduate, talking about graduate level work here. A few years ago, back in 2017, we asked a real simple question, or so it seemed, which is just wondering out loud, well, what do we want a Shelby County graduate to be when they walk across the stage, which now is more metaphorical than literal, perhaps, but when they walk across the stage, going out into the world, what do we want them to be able to do? What skills and knowledge do we want them to have? And with that in mind, we developed a profile of the graduate with community stakeholders. We had parents, teachers, students, business leaders that came together over a series of community meetings in order to just address, what are those lifelong kind of skills. And really, it was the first step of an approach of trying to think of a competency-based education approach, where here's our lifelong things that we want students to walk out of our system with, to be equipped with, and to therefore think of our academics, standards, and so on as the vehicle to get to those things. And from that profile of a graduate work, we developed several strands, but the ones that I highlighted, that I picked here for the slide, looking at these, you can just almost easily with every other bullet see how some of these directly tie into digital citizenship. The idea of being a global citizen, to embrace the diversity of opinion, to make safe, legal, and ethical choices, right? Talking about that digital footprint piece. To be an effective communicator, to speak and write clearly, to engage with print and digital media, that again, responsible digital footprint, and being a responsible collaborator, which we are all, as adults and students alike, really pressed with right now in our current situation, as far as how can we continue to do some great collaboration that values our individual contributions, give and take a lot of good feedback in a world where we have to do it almost purely digital. So this profile of a graduate work that we did and created our strategic leadership plan for our district as we launched forward. But to center that a bit, and you can go to the next slide if you like there, when we first began our initiative, one-to-one devices for students, this is back in 2014, 2015, we realized very early on, our superintendent, Dr. Nyhoff, tasked us to think of how are we going to, if we're giving these students these devices, we have the responsibility, the obligation on many different levels, but from the state of Kentucky, not much less our district, to equip them, right? So how basically are we going to create a digital citizenship curriculum for them? And from that work, early on, we began creating a digital citizenship curriculum for all of our students, K through 12. A lot of that work, certainly, we didn't want to reinvent the wheel and we didn't need to. We certainly incorporated a lot of resources that are available out there. Nicole had mentioned Common Sense Media and Interland, just to take two. But when we developed that curriculum, we developed a real scope and sequence K through 12, where out of 5 strands that we've identified as important and centered around, students will get 5 digital citizenship lessons, really key, deeply engaging digital citizenship lessons every academic year, which means that, if you go start with K and then in 12, in theory, you would have 65 unique lessons over the scope of it. It was kind of an early decision that I made when I was trying to create and craft them, is that they should really be led by a teacher as group discussions, as facilitated learning. So Google Slides, is just to use as a Google app, was a simple way of us centering each of those different strands and grade levels and lessons with accompanying material. That is, we talked about the importance of librarians. For our elementary librarians, they are the ones that are delivering the lessons. And for our secondary librarians, there's a little bit of sharing that load with other teachers. And recently, when our computer science standards was launched last year, we looked into how is our digital citizenship curriculum tied into that, which the only reason I mentioned that is just to point out that we're always trying to revise. It's always a process of revision. We're looking how that can be improved, but also how is it tying into standards as they emerge, after the fact. So as we sit here, we are in a situation where the digital citizenship lessons is a little bit of a challenge. Obviously, there are some librarians we know that are doing with related arts opportunities, talking directly or teaching directly to students, trying to facilitate that learning. Sometimes our counselors have pushed out a digital citizenship lesson. But it's definitely become, a piece and an important part of our curriculum and our culture here in Shelby County. And with that in mind, advancing to the next slide, one of the things that's happened for us, and I want to give credit where credit's due, Laura Shields, our staff developer in Shelby, a few weeks back asked out loud about, we know we're seeing and we're hearing a lot of things about our Shelby County teachers who are in the midst of really challenging work and they're learning from it. It'd be a great way, what would be a way to capture that, even if only for like a time capsule sake. So with that in mind, Laura Shields and I worked together and we kind of crafted the idea of doing a vodcast for Shelby County, which we called Shelby Speaks, Looking Forward. And the idea of that basically came down to 2 focus points, which is for the teachers to reflect on what new tools and strategies they are encountering right now in the midst of all this challenging NTI work. And then, at least, if not more importantly, looking forward to the time when we're back in the classroom and the buildings, how is that new learning going to apply? How is it going to transform and change their classrooms in the future? So it's kind of that current state, desired state thinking. And the rock stars, the people that deserve accolades about this is certainly not Laura or myself. It's these teachers that have volunteered their time and come forward to do these recordings with us. And it's just been really, really fascinating to hear about their journey. I recently did a blog entry on EdTech Elixirs on my blog about the vodcast. And we have about a little over half of the episodes published with other ones coming in the next week or two to finish it out. But the one thing I want to highlight as I kind of wrap up here talking about digital citizenship is I love how the teachers are talking about, going back to my profile of the graduate, the profile of the graduate for Shelby County that I mentioned and talked about. We have all these competencies that are, I think, ideals that any of us would probably get behind. But there is an aspect of, how do you make a real world experience where we're really going to test those things and assess those things and have students learn from those things? And, trying to look at silver linings and opportunities as an educator, right? The pandemic that we're currently in has certainly created an opportunity for that very thing. And again, just for the sake of it's going to stutter and probably buffer, but I do have here linked a little segment of one of our episodes where Sarah Buchanan from West Middle School talks about the new normal and how it's been flexible both directions. So she's learning to be flexible with students who might do their 3 or 4 or 5 hours of NTI work noon to 4 or 8 to 12 or 8 to midnight, even as middle school students. Also that they are learning how to have to be flexible. What's it like to speak in an experience like this when there's a bunch of heads, all staring at us? What does it feel like to share the stage and pass the comp, so to speak, as far as who can speak next? Having to organize their time, organize their digital work. So a lot of the digital citizenship that we have talked about, proposed, discussed, we've had digital lessons with, has been so theoretical to some of them, right? They're living the world of that now. And we're really excited to know and think about the fact that living that profile of a graduate, living those competencies in real life right now is definitely an experience that we're proud that we're helping them grow and learn in those ways, as well as learning about science content, social studies content, and English content, and so on. So again, I really hope that anyone listening out there checks out our podcast series. The playlist of Shelby Speaks Looking Forward is underneath the Shelby County Public Schools YouTube channel, and just look for the playlist for Shelby Speaks. Thanks so much.
Hey, Anna, I think this is really a neat topic. Just in, people are reevaluating their tech plans and they're reevaluating their purchasing decisions. And, a lot of this, that what you guys have done in Shelby County as far as developing this scope and sequence for the curriculum is a topic that is coming up and popping up right now. Mm-hmm. What does it look like when I go one-to-one, and what training needs to accompany that? What skills do our students need if we do this? And I think that's a really great example of the scope and sequence of the curriculum, and how, we don't just do it in isolation, or we don't just do it when we feel like it or when there's time and it's not a filler. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, the intentionality and accountability of the curriculum was a piece of that. The superintendent believes strongly in it, so it starts that way down. And then it was the idea of, if we know we're doing this and at certain times of the year and so on, that's just the way to make it guaranteed and viable, so to speak, right? As opposed to, wouldn't it be nice if you have 5 minutes at the end of the day? Yeah, it's and we also know that teachers also incorporate digital citizenship ideas a lot. And that's great. That could depend on the teacher, the day, the circumstances. So this is a way of just making sure that it's happening with some kind of fidelity.
Yeah, it has to be intentional. And then also, I think we can even get into the topic of what programs we're using for blended learning and what training and support we have to provide for them as far as how they're used in a remote learning environment. But, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Like you said, every decision that a school district does, it starts from the top. So that was awesome that your superintendent believed in that and thought it was important. So now everyone in your district is implementing that. So up next, we do have Paula, and she is also going to talk about what is happening in her district.
Hi there, guys. I am a digital learning coach here in Fayette County Schools. And prior to my position and taking over digital citizenship for the district, I was a librarian who was providing the instruction to my students. So I've kind of been on both ends of the spectrum in that respect, and kind of gives you a unique way to look at it when you really think about it. To get started with, I kind of threw this up last minute. Somebody had made a comment before we got started, and I thought, oh my goodness, I have something that could address that. We found that we thought it might be a good idea to provide our teachers with resources for online meeting expectations. we first got information that some of our young men were coming partially closed to class, to online class. And so I created these two different slides, one for probably more secondary nature, one more primary nature, where the teachers can bring these up. They don't have to put the work into providing the expectations, but that they can put these up at the beginning of the meeting, particularly that time where people are still joining. And hopefully they are discussing them with students, but also too, the kids can look at and maybe even read and look at some of the expectations they should follow. So I just wanted to put that out there just to show you that's one of the things we're trying to give our teachers and encourage them. It's not required. It's not a district mandate. It's just more something that we thought would be a good thing to offer them. On the next slide, I'm actually going to share my screen.
And while you're sharing your screen, I just want to read some of the comments. We do have Heather Worrell. She is in the chat, and she said that she cannot wait to share this episode with our integration branch. We are working to build a strong digital citizenship vision to cover up the district. So everyone a one strategy. And we also have how can we inform those parents to love that Adam is working on a podcast to get more info. Thank you. Okay. And then Paula, are you ready to share?
I'm ready to share it.
All right, awesome. All right.
All right, and I hope everybody can see my screen. It is our website. When I came to the district level, and basically they looked at me and said, oh, so you've been teaching digital citizenship. We're going to pass the torch to you and let you take this over. And the first thing I did back in 2011 was create an online site where I could gather all the information for our teachers. The thing about it was that everything was very disjointed in nature, and I'm a big believer in communication and organization when it comes to providing things to our schools. Now, we have over 60 plus schools and programs. Jefferson County, of course, would be quite larger than us, but each one can do their own thing. So we don't have any kind of district-wide mandate from the top down that everybody has to do a particular lesson, a particular format, or whatever. What we do have is the requirement that every school has a building coordinator for digital citizenship, and that those folks are responsible for making sure the instruction happens in their building. And I am the person each year that takes over the training, so to speak, updating in a lot of cases for our experienced people, but to get them on track and to make sure that digital citizenship is being covered. So on our site here, I have gathered everything that we do here in Fayette County as far as anything doing with communication, resources, whatever you want to call it. We have it all in one location. The idea being a one-stop shop for everything. I provide information on training dates and things of that nature. I have information on our different communication platforms. And so that at any time, my building coordinators or teachers for that matter can come and take advantage of these communications. I have coordinator memos that I do periodically throughout the year. I do send those out in email, but then I archive, I guess you could call it, and put the memo here so that at any given time, if somebody loses access or they delete an email or whatever, they can come back and they can take advantage and find that information they were looking for. And it looks like I'm being a little bit slow to load. So hopefully if you pull that up on your own screen or anything, you can see that. I also have general resources. And so one of the things that we do in Fayette County when I came in 2011 is I put together a curriculum that is spiraling in nature. And the idea is that from kindergarten through 12th grade, that there are certain topics to focus on each grade level. You touch on all topics, you all know this from your own instruction, but that you may have a focus or featured topic each year. The idea being that hopefully that people and folks can dig a little deeper. And so I created that curriculum in 2011. I have updated over time. It needs another big update, and I will do that hopefully over the summer. But if I pop that out, so what we've done is we've given them some topics. We have provided resources and ideas for lessons, that type of thing. And they can go through those to begin culling and putting together the lessons for their school. We provide other information for them. I guess I look at my job, besides training them each year, part of my job is to make life easier for my coordinators and for the teachers who are delivering instruction. And depending on our building, it varies. Sometimes the coordinator, him or herself in the building, is the one that provides the instruction directly to students, such as in elementary librarians in a lot of cases. In other cases, a school may have opted to have teachers do it, which I think is absolutely the best way to tackle that type of education for kids. And at high schools, it may be an STC. It just varies, and it's all over the place. But anyway, I've gathered all these things with that eye toward making things easier. And I'm going to point out this resource. I had a copyright section already existing on our website, but I had to add a little addendum. And I don't know if you guys are encountering this if you're at the district level, but we started getting some cease and desist letters from publishers. Teachers pay teachers. Some of our teachers are out there thinking they can post anything, particularly on a Google site or whatever, and just put it out there for kids to, anybody to make copies of, or kids to get copies. You know how it goes. We're talking about copyright here. And so I actually came back and very specifically broke out this section on posting resources online. With the whole idea is just because you pay for it doesn't mean, from teachers pay teachers, for example, you don't get to openly post that for the world to see. The same thing goes for our curriculum products in the district. Yes, we purchased them, but we did not purchase them to post publicly. And so it is a conversation that is ongoing with our teachers and something that I've touched upon here. We do require our folks to do an instructional plan, each building or school to submit an instructional plan. So each year they have to fill out some statistical information on a Google form, and then they have to provide kind of a long range, really, lesson plan for what they're going to deliver to students. It is a living document. We don't expect that to be written in stone, but we do want that as evidence in the district that the school has thought about it and prepared, because we want to make sure this is at the forefront of all of our schools, that they're considering this for students. Then in this section of the site, I'm trying to move really quickly so that I'm not taking up a lot of time. I do have resources that I've culled and broken down into elementary, middle, and high, creating a database that the teachers and the coordinators can search to find things that I've located. And I have to say, Larry, I am going to update some additional PBS resources in here now that you've shown me that. But, and I always do this over the summer. If they can do a filter, and they can filter by grade and so forth, and it will bring up the different types of resources. Could be lessons, videos, websites, interactives, it could be anything. And so as I get new information, I try to get that updated. So I do have for middle and for high as well. And this is public, so anybody's welcome to come take a look if you wish. And then too, each year I do a deep dive with my new coordinators who are brand new. They come to a personal face-to-face training where we talk about the requirements and what they'll be doing in the district. We do expect them to get some online training and submit certificates to give them sort of a base knowledge of the content, because we can't assume that adults know. They do not, as you all know. And I'll provide them with a checklist of things that they need to be aware of going forward throughout the first year. So anyway, that's kind of a very quick overview of some of the things we're doing in the district. And as I said, it's really all about the organization of communications and trying to be as supportive as possible for our school folks.
Hey, Paula, I've got a question for you. Do you make this digital citizenship training part of like the acceptable use policy every year for teachers, or is this just separate from that?
You're talking about for the building coordinators? It's separate. We run it, we will post it through our PD menu, online PD menu, but it doesn't run in what you're saying through that other type of delivery. So I will contact them, I'll say sign up, and I'll offer different sessions.
I think something you said earlier when you were showing some of your content, just how you think that the teacher should be involved as much as possible. I think that is super, super important, because a lot of times they're really focused and busy on that content, and whether it be a math teacher, science teacher, that sometimes it's hard for them to see that, hey, while you're teaching math or teaching English language arts and teaching your kids how to go out and vet resources and curate resources for research projects or whatever, that digital citizenship instruction is part of that whole conversation and part of that instruction with the students. So,
Well, absolutely. I'm sorry.
yeah, I think that's a great point you made.
Well, I mean, look at our teachers violating copyright. Our adults do not know basic content about how to behave when it comes to digital citizenship. People vary. Some are quite knowledgeable, but we have a fair amount that I think, no matter that we have been working, Fayette County rolled out digital citizenship in 2004. I believe we were one of the first states in the country. Counties in the country who rolled this out and started training students. So it's been around a while, but we still have adults who do not know.
Okay. And thank you for sharing, especially all your resources. You have a very great website for all of your staff and students. And like you said, copyright is important for everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, up next is Dr. Marty Park. And I will turn it over to him to give his take on digital citizenship.
Awesome, Danielle. Thank you so much. Well, I could not wait to unmute my mic following all of the folks who've shared, but specifically Paula and Adam and others who really are the example of why Kentucky specifically is and has been positioned and digitally ready to respond for our students, for our parents, for our communities in all the right ways. And so I think a huge, not just shout out, but applaud and gratefulness for Paula and Adam for leading in this way. And I've had the opportunity to celebrate their work in several different ways in the past year and a half or so. And I immediately point people to their work as shining examples of when you invest in great thinking, great leadership, and you approach it with a level of care that they have and intentionality that they have. It just results in awesome work. So, just the ability that I've had, an opportunity I've had to share Shelby County work, Fayette County work, Jefferson County's work in the past, and Warren County's work. So this is just a fun opportunity today to share in light of our current public health crisis and our students being digitally connected, probably way more now than we ever have. I know that others have researched and looked at, traditionally over the past decade and a half or so, our students have had to power down when they come to school. That's not where Kentucky's been, but now certainly more so than ever. We're in an opportunity, an environment where we are more digitally connected than ever, just like today. And so for me, digital citizenship is much more than just a side topic. And if you know me, you know this, that for me, it's the lifeblood of digital learning. It's the lifeblood of designing real, authentic learning experiences that are heavily connected. And it's the piece that helps a lot of folks really blast through this wall of fear that they may have. And so I'll take just a few minutes and go through a couple ideas that I do want to share. I wanted to make sure that I was last to make sure that there was time for all of our experts to share the things that they've been doing. And so just huge props to the folks who've already shared, and I should say the leaders that have already shared. And so that's definitely something I wanted to push on. Digital citizenship as a framing, as a topic, it's just really important to define what that actually means. And so in and this is not a shameless plug at all. Anything that I have, I freely give away. We did, myself and Mike Ribble did publish a book through ISTE this past year that's really targeted at digital citizenship for school leaders. But really, that was just an opportunity to get out a lot of this work and this thinking that our Kentucky leaders have been doing for some time. And so it's extremely important to define what we mean by digital citizenship. And this definition has gone, as Paula mentioned, over the last almost 2 decades, when Fayette County and other districts in the state jumped on board with the value of digital citizenship, but it's grown. And it's expanded. And so the idea that it's continued developing norms of appropriate, responsible, and then I love to push in on the empowered technology use. So being empowered, and this is where we get into the ideas of application fluency, and I'll push on those as others have already pushed on today. And so I think it's understanding what that core idea is from a leadership perspective. By the way, Kentucky is one of the only states that take this this careful approach and this intentional approach to the value of digital citizenship. And so you may not know this. Adam pushed on it from his superintendent's perspective, but every year, our superintendents, in their annual assurances, these are the things that superintendents every year say that they're going to do and take care over. Every year, our superintendents assure that they are going to work with digital citizenship implementation for their students and teachers. The level at which we go about that is, oftentimes across the board, and that's fine. Those are growth opportunities. But every year, superintendents say, yes, digital citizenship is important, and our students and teachers are going to engage in learning and applying digital citizenship. And that's in our official superintendent's assurances that they sign every school year. And so that's just a great foundation for us. It's important for me to understand that we should have a core definition. That's fine. For me, it's about you customizing your own definition. So you heard Nicole, you heard Adam, Paula, James did a great job of defining for themselves what digital citizenship is. And it's really important that you do that. So whether it's a school level leadership conversation or a district leadership conversation, customize your own definition. What does digital citizenship mean to you? And more importantly, target the action. Okay, so these are the 3 actions that I love to push on. But when you define, you customize your definition for yourself, target some actions. Use these if you want, freely pass these out. But to lead and assist others in building positive digital experiences, to recognize our actions have consequences. That's a core piece that everyone's touched on, whether that's digital footprint ideas or digital tattoo ideas, but also to participate in a manner for common good. So I love these actions. There are a ton of other ways to articulate actions that are tied to the idea of digital citizenship. I can't do anything else without really hitting on the 9 elements of digital citizenship. I'm breaking one of my rules of talking while having words on a screen. That's one of the rules I try never to break. I'm going to go ahead and just really quick do that so that I can push on the idea of somebody has to understand all of these 9 pieces. And Dr. Ribble and myself really brought a lot of people together across the country to think through the 9 elements as they've developed over the years with the core framing of concepts of digital citizenship. We've updated and upgraded some of the 9 elements. I don't think it's important to so my thing about digital citizenship today in today's environment is to simplify it as best you can, but somebody has to, and I love Paula's structure in Fayette County where they're building level coordinators, and that's a plan. They have a plan in place that somebody has to understand the big picture and where pieces and parts fit in, because For example, one I love to hit on is if we do not address, or if nobody understands the ideas of digital commerce, buying and selling things online in a digital space, if nobody understands that, then we're missing the boat, because we have students who are buying and selling things online. And there are good ways to be empowered to do that, have that empowerment. We've added to digital communication, digital collaboration. Obviously, that's super smart to do. Digital fluency, the KAT team hit on, Larry and Kathy hit on why digital fluency is important. It's not just about understanding media and information literacy, but it's about applying it when we have students start to make stuff. And so it's that full scale spectrum. We've added digital welfare. That's the health, safety, and happiness that comes with engaging in a digital world. That's super important. And then, to wrap the 9 elements up, and again, simplify it. Adam has simplified it. Paula has simplified it. James simplified it. Larry simplified it. And Nicole also simplified these big ideas. And so, but understanding privacy, and not just security, but adding privacy to the mix of understanding why it's important to engage in digital privacy conversations, oversharing and things like that. So those are important. That's big picture. Again, to simplify it, the way that we have simplified it is to really hone in on being safe, savvy, and social. And for me, I like the way that structures and fits in. Others have shared other ways to simplify, which I champion. I love that. That's absolutely awesome. There's no one way to look at this or to simplify it, but being safe, savvy, and social. So protecting yourself and protecting others, super important. Educating yourself and educating others. That's what we mean by savvy. And then to be social. We understand what social is and social good, and being a social activist for the things that are important. And that's respecting yourself and respecting others. And so that's our kind of quick way to simplify. And so when we look at being safe and savvy and social, we think about all of the simple ways to define that. And I love to go ahead and push on those. But to take it even further, and I'll just real quickly look at this quick equation. And I'll get it into, I quickly want to get to action, because learning digital citizenship skills or concepts or ideas is super important. That's step number one. So we got to learn. And that involves remembering and understanding. So before I do something, remember that, hey, I had a conversation with my teacher about these things, or about this one specific thing. So I remember and I understand that that's important, but taking that next step to apply it. And I just use that terminology over and over again. This is the action. This is the verb part of digital citizenship that is more vital now than ever before. And so being a safe, savvy, and social learner equals being able to apply, analyze, evaluate, create. And those are words that we all know as teachers, but that's the action part of the work. And so if we're not designing or developing opportunities for students to apply, then we're missing the boat a bit. And then that's a growth step for us. So real quickly, I love stitching it all together. And so, so we have definitions and elements and planning. And again, in the book that we published recently, we've highlighted, for example, Paula and her team in Fayette County, where they have a plan. They have a real plan, a building by building plan. And every year, and then Paula is very quick to point out, like, it's never perfect, and it's, but they have a plan to act on. And so being a part of your first steps is to define what you mean, point to some constructs, concepts, elements, and then plan around that. Also, if you haven't checked it out, the DigCit Commit team through ISTE has developed competencies. This is being inclusive, informed, engaged, balanced, and alert. This is, again, a simplification, but competencies are a jumping off point that get us closer to action. Then from that larger grain size, getting down to standards, a shout out to our Kentucky Academic Standards for Technology. We talked before the show that our Kentucky Board of Ed is going through our first reading at our June board meeting for our new Kentucky Academic Standards for Technology. Well, guess what? Digital citizenship is woven all the way through there as a core construct. And so if you want to see the current live draft view of that hyperlink, oet.news/KAS for tech, that's a draft of the latest public view of that. There's slight modifications that will go in front of the board, some wording add, but the core is consistent. Also, three great friends of mine that I love to celebrate and shout out: Dr. Madsen, Dr. Lindsay, and Nancy Watson. Have developed some frameworks for implementation of digital citizenship that are just stellar. They're absolutely fantastic. And so I think jumping from standards to thinking about a framework makes a lot of sense. Kristen Madsen pushes on actions and applications in her book, and she speaks all throughout the country on digital citizenship in action. I use that as a stitch point for us because we have to get to action as fast as possible. Understanding and being able to engage in communities is another step for us. So whether that's locally to Kentucky, which by the way, Amy and the Warren County team helped lead our very first statewide digital citizenship event this past year and this past school year. And so that was awesome to develop a statewide community, but there's probably a district community, a regional community, and a national and international community to get involved in, ultimately driving to student voice. And so I'll use this to touch on, if you haven't checked out Spark Change, from Live Bits. That's such a fantastic book that's been published recently. Go check that out if you get a chance. But for us, just one model that we love to use as a celebration point is our Student Technology Leadership Program, which digital citizenship is woven all the way throughout that program. And last year we had over 60,000 students participate. By the way, that work, the STLP at Home, is going on right now with live updates and live awards this Friday. And so tune into that if you haven't had a chance to. But this is digital citizenship in action. It's our students creating and applying all of these digital citizenship skills that everyone has already talked about in real live action form. I'm going to go real quick, but on this piece, because I just want to point out that we've identified different levels, and we try to simplify it as much as possible. But to figure out at a school or district, from a school or district lens, what level of your digital citizenship plan you have. We certainly want to take step by step, and if you're, if you fit in this level 1 bucket, then let's try to get to level 2. Maybe you get to level 1.5. And that's a great next step. We want to move as many of our schools and districts away from what I would call level 0 as quickly as possible. In Kentucky, we've been able to do that throughout the years, and we want to continue. And this is not something like once you get to level 3, this is swimming laps in a pool. It's trying to make sure that we stay at a level that really digs in on doing digital citizenship on a day-to-day basis, which now more than ever, it's a perfect time for us to see that. So I'd ask, what's the right progression for your learners? And one resource that's been really successful for us that makes a lot of sense is this idea of looking at a progression chart. When is the right time for you to work with your learners on a very specific skill or element of digital citizenship? And so this resource it's a Google sheet that's going to ask you to copy. It's digcit.live/progression. And it's just going to ask you to make a copy of it. Again, this is for you. This is for you to customize. It's for you to add to and take away. It's for you to identify what resources you're going to use, and to decide, is this a K through 2 conversation that you want to have? Kind of a little bit pushing on the idea of you having a curriculum development process. I think Adam, the example of the scope and sequence that he used, or that he's developed in Shelby County with Shelby County leaders, is certainly another way to go about this. And I know Adam would freely share as well. As I wrap up, I want to give a quick shout out to, if you're on Twitter right now or watching this archive video, just give a quick shout out to Dr. Jerry Swan. The Digital Driver's License Project is something that started off long ago, many years ago, and it continues to grow, and it continues to just get stronger and stronger. But I want to be clear about the Digital Citizenship License, which we refer to it as a license inside of the Digital Driver's License Project, which is at idrivedigital.com. This is an entry point. That's all this is. This is, I would never be a proponent of giving a kids let's give our kids a test on. But what it is it's a way to enter into some common digital citizenship skills, concepts, and language. And I want to really push in on language. We have to, and this is why I asked you the question earlier, Nicole, about using common language, being able to have a conversation with our students immediately when scenarios present themselves. So immediately when a student engages in something online or shares something that may be questionable or may be awesome, being able to use the same language that your students use is vital. And so this is an opportunity through the digital driver's license, again at idrivedigital.com, is just an entry point to have students along with staff develop common language. It's module based and it's self-paced, and students create an account, connect with their school, and then achieve what we would call a badge or micro credential in digital citizenship. Final shout out to Dr. Mattson. I love, and I come back to this all the time about thinking big picture about what we are developing and creating. If our lessons narrowly focus on digital missteps and the don'ts part, which others have used that framing, the digital citizenship don'ts, then it's time to expand. So we need more thoughtful, empathetic, live action digital citizens who can wrestle with some of these really hard, really ethical questions that are occurring right now. Every second of every day online, so that we can look at the intersection between humanity and what we're doing digitally. We're always going to push on, and we hit on this in the book, that there's your real world and your online world, and these things are merging rapidly, and they should. We need to own our work online, and so I wanted to end with that. And really just celebrate others who've shared today. In Kentucky, we are extremely fortunate and blessed to have awesome leaders to move big conversations forward. I know this is KY Go Digital, but I know that other leaders from other states watch the show, and all the way across the globe. And so really want to point to digital citizenship leaders that have already shared, Paula, Adam, our KAT team, Nicole, and James and others that really help us move things forward. Danielle, back to you.
I think Danielle, there she is.
I'm here, and thank you so much for sharing. That was powerful, and like you said, that we do know that digital citizenship is important for everyone, and I feel like that has been echoed from the entire panel. So thank you for that. That was awesome. Amy, would you like to? I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
And he's not going to do it because he's too humble, but this book has been like my sidekick for so many scenarios and situations this past year. This is a very practically written book, and chapter 11 of this book right now is so relevant. And this is talking about basically helping your parents and supporting your parents in the digital citizenship conversation right now, because during this remote learning, we are actually supporting our parents so they can support their children as learners. And this book in chapter 11 gives you some things to think about as we're doing this right now. And just triangulation, I think that's the word that's used in here, is triangulating the conversation between the students, the parents, and us as educators in order to build that fluency and expand this conversation so our students can be more successful learners. So it's a digital citizenship handbook for school leaders, but I think that includes our teachers too. Our teachers are leaders in this conversation. So thank you, Dr. Clark, for joining us and leading us in this statewide journey and efforts. And thank all of our panelists today, and thank you for your leadership in this area and topic. And we appreciate you sharing with us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for including me in an esteemed company. I'll just say that real quick.
You guys are wonderful, and thanks to KUT for being a partner across the state. You guys are wonderful.
Thank you, Amy.
We appreciate you joining us today. So,
I just want to add one thing for everybody listening out there. You have a unique opportunity right now. If there was ever a moment to strike at the heart of teaching digital citizenship and trying to emphasize the importance of it to our teachers, our students, and families, this is it. You'll never have a better time as moving into next year.
Well said. Well said.
thank you, Paula. I think, at this time, we're going to turn a global pandemic crisis into a wonderful opportunity for some great experiences for our children. So yes, thank you for making that point. So I'm going to close this out today. Thank you again for sharing with us today. This is a true team sport, and you are helping us all work smarter. You can receive on-demand video support by subscribing to our Kentucky Go Digital Live channel on YouTube. All you have to do is click subscribe. Our next show is Friday, May 22nd at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where we will have our Summer PD Spotlight featuring Teach Me Kentucky, Innovations for Learning Conference, and Kentucky Go Digital. Also, we have created a Facebook page to help support. You can find us on Facebook, Kentucky Go Digital, and you can also follow and contribute to the Kentucky Go Digital hashtag. Remember to register for the Summer Kentucky Go Digital Virtual One State, One Stage Together that is taking place July 20th and 21st. We are near 500 registrations so far. See which date or dates you two can connect in person with many fellow rock stars as they share awesome digital tools. Don't forget that as you create, connect your good ideas to our hashtag so others can share them around the state. Until next time, Kentucky Go Digital, yes.